What's up, y'all? Erroneous here, back with another Raid Shadow Legends video. Today's video, I'm going to be going over the brand new mythical coming from Grim Forest, so let's get into it. Alright, so we do have brand new mythical coming to Grim Forest. Name is ANAXIA the Reborn. Let's see how good this mythical will end up being. Let's see. So Lizardman mythical, defense and HP based champion, spirit affinity. Base form focuses on sustaining control, and then the second form is focused on damage. So flexible champion who can anchor your team or shift into a more aggressive role depending on the situation that it calls for. So let's take a look at ANAXIA. So here's ANAXIA. Let me move myself out of the way for a bit so you guys can take a quick look. So ANAXIA, the A1 in the base form, attacks an enemy, heals all allies by 5% of their max HP, heals all allies by an additional 5% of their max HP if this champion attacks a target under a leech. Okay. Under a leech. Leech, I mean, leech is good for bosses, for boss content, some wave content, but typically leech is meant for like Hydra, you know, clan boss, things like that. Hopefully this champion will actually have a reasonable kit. Let's see. Death Plunge on the A2 for the base form, attacks all enemies, heals all allies by 15% of this champ's max HP, which is reasonable. The value of the heal increases by 5% for each leech debuff on the enemy team. So there's a lot of synergy with leech. I wonder if this is like a Chimera champion. If a champion receives any surplus heal, places a shield buff on that champion for 2 turns. The value of the shield is equal to the amount of surplus heal received, up to 30% of the champion's max HP. What is this? Just a Lion's form Chimera champion? Because this is one of the only champions that can hit a trial on the Lion form. So far, I'm not that impressed. The A3, all-consuming roar, attacks all enemies, places a leech debuff for 2 turns and a provoke debuff for 1 turn on all enemies. Also places a counterattack buff on this champion for 2 turns. I don't think you can place a provoke on the Chimera. Pretty sure it's just Hydra, if I'm not mistaken. At least I've never done that, if it's possible. I don't remember. But also places a counterattack on himself, so that's decent. So constant healing of your team. And then 3 turn on the shields ability, 3 turn on the all-consuming roar ability for the leech and provoke. The kit is not that unique so far. Kind of bland. A little bit bland for me. I mean, good amount of healing. The shields seem good, but it's remember, this is a mythical champion. So what I would prefer to read so far is that the shield is protected. Protected shield, so it can't be removed, right? Because in PvP, shields get removed easily. There's so many buff strip champions in the game, you need to have a protected shield or protected buffs at this point. Or else they're just gonna get stripped or stolen, for that matter. Okay, on the passive for this base form, each time this champion hits an enemy under a leech, increases this champion's defense and HP by 50%, or sorry, 5%, it stacks up to 50%. So it's reasonable. Places a counterattack buff on herself, so she's going to get the 50% defense and HP fairly quickly. This is a very tanky champion, is what it feels like it's going to come out to be. So, I mean, okay. I mean, it's not crazy. Her kit just does not feel crazy so far. When attacked by enemies whose attack is higher than or equal to their defense, has a 100% chance of placing a 50% decrease attack for 2 turns. When attacked by enemies whose defense is higher than their attack, has a 100% chance to place a decreased defense for 2 turns instead. So, like a miniature Krisk? Not really. I mean, I personally wish they just gave her the decreased attack and decreased defense like Krisk, except for 2 turns. Just made her stronger than Krisk, right? In that sense, it's again, mythical champion. It's not a void legendary, it's a mythical. When attacked by enemies under a leech debuff, has a 50% chance to place a provoke. I mean, this is good for Magma Boss, but who cares about Magma Boss in Doom Tower if they're in endgame? Nobody. Nobody cares about Magma Boss in endgame. They only care about Dark Fae. And the Hydra placing a provoke, there's so many other provoke champions in the game at this point that, I mean, yes, could this champion make your team a little bit stronger, last longer in Hydra? Sure. Yeah, all the shields are great, but guess what? The shields can be removed. So you still have to have everybody with high resist. If she's placing shields, the Hydra can steal the shields. So keep that in mind. Could she be potentially strong with the billion damage shield team? That is potential. It has potential. She does have potential for the Hydra unkillable shield team. Also potential for the clan boss unkillable shield team. But by the time you even get this champion, you're probably going to have other means of defeating the clan boss and Hydra in the highest difficulty. So what is the point? Defense aura in all battles by 35% is reasonable. It's fairly high. In her alternate form, looks pretty cool. Looks like she has her tongue coming out of her mouth, but also out of her chest. That is pretty crazy. Okay, and the twin blades look really cool too. On the A1, let's see if this damage-based HP nuker seems any good. And typically, HP nukers have low multipliers. So, I mean, I have high hopes. I'm cautiously optimistic always about these champions, but multipliers on HP-based nukers are typically... So, attacks one enemy, places block buffs debuff for 2 turns. This debuff cannot be resisted if the target's HP is lower than this champion's. So is it lower in a sense of, it's not max HP. I assume it's just if she has 100% HP, the enemy has less than 100% HP, she's going to place a block debuffs or a block buffs unresistible. That's how I'm reading this. Frenzied Execution. Attacks one enemy, will ignore stone skin buffs. Okay, that's strong. Now we're getting somewhere. But she doesn't ignore anything else. Doesn't ignore shields. Doesn't ignore ally protection. Doesn't ignore strengthen. Doesn't ignore increased defense. The damage inflicted by this skill increases by 50% if the target's HP is lower than this champion's, which is her total HP, I assume. Or I could be reading this as, like I said, with the first ability. She has 100% HP, they have 75% HP, she's going to do 50% more damage. But I think it's based on her full HP, like her max HP. But it doesn't actually say that, so. Resets the cooldown of this skill if the target's killed, but it doesn't ignore defense, it just increases her damage if the target's HP is lower. So you have to build this champion with extremely high HP, and in many instances, if you're going up against a stone skin support champion, most support champions and really endgame are going to have over 100,000 HP typically, unless they're being built for crazy speeds. The Soul Separator on the A3 attacks one enemy. See, the other issue about this champion is it only attacks one time. It's not attacking multiple times or multiple enemies so far. Maybe this skill will be all enemies, but it's not attacking multiple times. That's a problem. UDK crushes her, right? Crushes her. Yes, UDK is red affinity, so could she one-shot a UDK? She would have to have crazy multipliers. Plus, the relic, Aspect of Siroth, crushes her. Aspect of Siroth is so strong now, right? So you can't just one-shot an enemy easily like we used to be able to, because many of the support champions have Aspect of Siroth on. So only attacking one time doesn't really do her much justice, especially if you want to use her in PvP. So far, this is looking like a PvE champion. Could she be used in PvP? Yes, but she's not going to be the first in class, in my opinion, based on reading this kit. Seems fairly weak or just kind of like mid-tier. I'd say mid-tier right now. In terms of mythicals, she's weak so far. Before attacking, places a 30% increased crit damage buff on all allies for 2 turns. That's it. No shatter buff. No use of the brand new buffs in the game. Why not shatter buff? You have use of the shatter buff in the game. It's a mythical champion. Steals 50% of the target's turn meter. Steals 100% of the target's turn meter instead if the target's HP is lower than this champion's. Okay. This lower than this champion's. We're going to have to see how that interacts in game once they allow the use cases. Next week we'll probably see some use cases in the test server. I really have high hopes for her, but right now I'm reading her kit and it feels very bad. Destroys the target's HP by 25%. Destroys 50% HP if the target's HP is lower than this champion's. Okay, so it doesn't say max HP. It just says destroys HP. I assume it's based on the enemy's max HP, or it's just straight up 25% of their HP. The way it's reading, it's not enemy's max. It doesn't say enemy max HP. So I assume it's just taking a chunk of 25% of the enemy's HP or 50% of the enemy's HP if their HP is lower than this champion's. So like she won't kill somebody on that. That's how I'm reading it. I hope that's not the case. I hope it actually destroys the champion's max HP by 25%. Ignores resistance as well for the turn meter steal. I mean, it's a mythical champion, y'all. It's a mythical champion. This should be unresistible. This should be unresistible, in my opinion. Rage Nexus will ignore 15% of a target's defense if the target's HP is lower than this champion. Will also ignore 15% of the target's defense if the target is under a leech debuff. Leech is so weak, especially in PvP. So not only is she a polymorph sheep magnet, but she won't have an issue with wand, which is nice. But a leech in PvP doesn't usually work very often. It can be cleansed as well. There's not a protected debuff that she can place. If she could protect the debuff, then that would be very helpful, but she can't. I just don't see how this works in practice unless you have a couple of strippers going before her, buff strippers, and then use her to do the AoE leech. But then she still needs to swap forms, and she doesn't have grants extra turn mechanics, so the leech is on her first form, and then her damage is on the second form. Oh, this is the PvE champion. This is a pure PvE champion. It's not PvP, so at least that's how I'm reading it. My hopes are not super high right now, but I think she looks amazing. Obviously, they kill it in the aesthetics department. They make the champions look really, really good. But like I said, this is kind of subpar so far in terms of the kit. Every third turn or third skill this champion uses will attack all enemies instead. Okay, that's decent. Every third skill this champion uses will attack all enemies instead. So I assume that means if I use the Blood Axle, then the Frenzy, the Soul Separator will turn into an attack all ability rather than attack one enemy ability. So if you could, okay, so wait a minute. Every third skill, does that also count if she counterattacks? If it counts counterattacks and ally attacks as a skill being used, if you ally attack and then you use a skill and then you use the Ignore Stone Skin right afterwards, would it be an AoE Stone Skin attack? That's the question. That's what it reads like, okay? That is what it reads like because it doesn't say attacks with a default skill. So if that's the case where she can AoE attack on the third skill with the Ignore Stone Skin, then she could be very viable potentially. But the issue is she doesn't have grants extra turns, so it still wouldn't really work in practice in theory unless she gets multiple extra turn attempts. Or you have to ally attack, and then go into the frenzied execution. Still seems kind of weak. I mean, it's going to be hard to utilize in practice. It just doesn't seem feasible in PvP unless, I mean, there's going to be a lot of people with big brains out there that can probably make a team that could make it work, but who knows? I feel like it would just, you'd have to be building a team around her instead of her around the team. This champion joins every third attack skill used by allies. Every third attack skill. So does that mean one champion takes a turn, then the next champion takes a turn, another champ takes a turn, she joins the attack, which then reduces the cooldown on every third skill the champion uses. This champion will use their default skill when joining in that skill. Okay. So interesting champion. A lot of questions I have for the community managers about this. And so I'll definitely have to ask some questions about this. She could be strong, but she doesn't read extremely powerful on her first form. Her second form seems a little bit better. Still ally defense in all battles by 35%. I wish there was an HP in all battles on her second form, but it is what it is. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. What do you think of this champion? So far, I think she's kind of subpar, but I give her like a B+ right now, maybe an A-, but she mainly reads like a PvE champion. That's going to be it for this one, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like on your way out, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you on a video soon. Take care.